It was a cold, foggy evening in late October when Jessica Miller, a freshman at Ravenwood University in Salem, Massachusetts, moved into her dormitory. The building, known as Ravenwood Hall, was a towering Gothic structure with cracked stone walls and narrow arched windows. It had been built in the early 1900s and was rumored to be haunted, but Jessica didn't believe in ghosts. She was more focused on starting her college life and making new friends. Her roommate, Claire Bennett, was a bubbly girl from Seattle who loved true crime podcasts and horror novels. The two hit it off immediately, bonding over their shared love of all things spooky. But as the weeks went by, strange things began to happen in Ravenwood Hall. It started with small, unsettling occurrences. Jessica would hear faint footsteps in the hallway late at night, even though no one was there. Her laptop would suddenly shut off, and she'd find it open and running in the common room the next morning. Claire laughed it off, saying it was just the stress of adjusting to college life. But Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. One night, as Jessica was studying for her midterms, she heard a loud knock on the door. She opened it, but the hallway was empty. Just as she was about to close the door, she noticed a crumpled piece of paper on the floor. It was a handwritten note that read, "Leave while you still can." Jessica's heart raced as she showed the note to Claire. Claire, ever the skeptic, suggested it was just a prank by one of their classmates. But the next day, things took a darker turn. Jessica woke up to find her mirror covered in strange symbols, drawn in what looked like red lipstick. The symbols formed a circle with a single word in the center. Run. Terrified, Jessica reported the incident to the dorm supervisor, but they dismissed it as a harmless prank. That evening, Jessica and Claire decided to investigate the history of Ravenwood Hall. They visited the university library and dug through old archives. What they found sent chills down their spines. Decades ago, a student named Elizabeth Hawthorne had vanished without a trace. She was last seen in Ravenwood Hall, and her body was never found. Rumors swirled that she had been involved in occult practices, and some believed her spirit still haunted the dormitory. As the days went by, the strange occurrences escalated. Jessica began to hear whispers in the hallway, and she would wake up in the middle of the night to see a shadowy figure standing at the foot of her bed. Claire, who had initially been skeptical, started experiencing the same things. The two girls were terrified, but they couldn't explain what was happening. One night, Jessica decided to confront the entity. Armed with a flashlight and a small cross she had bought from a local antique shop, she ventured into the basement of Ravenwood Hall, where the activity seemed to be centered. The basement was dark and damp, with a faint smell of mildew. As she walked deeper into the room, she heard a soft, eerie voice whispering her name. Suddenly, the flashlight flickered and went out. Jessica was plunged into darkness. She fumbled with the flashlight, trying to get it to work, but it was no use. Just as she was about to turn back, she felt a cold hand grab her wrist. She screamed and pulled away, but the grip tightened. The voice grew louder, chanting in a language she didn't understand. In a panic, Jessica remembered the cross in her pocket. She pulled it out and held it in front of her. The chanting stopped, and the hand released her. The flashlight flickered back on, revealing an empty room. Jessica ran back to her dorm, shaking and out of breath. The next morning, Jessica and Claire packed their bags and moved out of Ravenwood Hall. They reported everything to the university, but no one believed their story. The dormitory remained open, and the strange occurrences continued. To this day, students at Ravenwood University tell the story of Jessica and Claire, warning freshmen to stay away from Ravenwood Hall. But every year, someone inevitably moves in, drawn by the low rent and the promise of a spooky story to tell. And every year, the whispers return, the shadows reappear, and the warning is ignored until it's too late.